lieutenant tells of torture over 2006 failed coup in Gambia. President-elect Joe Biden fears more people may die of coronavirus as Trump refuses to authorize transitional process. Officials in Egypt have discovered ancient coffins with mummies dating back 2,500 years. These and more coming on the world today. Welcome back and many thanks for joining us. My name is Sana Tunkara and now to the news in detail. Testimonies on the alleged brutality of the Gambia's National Intelligence Agency continued at the Truth Commission on Monday with Army Major Basse Camara as witness. Camara, who was a lieutenant in 2006, was arrested, detained and allegedly tortured by the Yahya Jammeh-controlled National Intelligence Agency for taking part in a coup attempt in March that year. Asetu Tambandur files in this report.
The 48-year Major Basse Camara told the Truth Commission that he was informed about the coup in early March 2006 by the then Chief of Defense Staff, Colonel Du Cham. He said Cham wanted him to join the plan to overthrow the Jammeh government and the bad leadership.
That the president who has acted in that way, in the manner and way that the former president has.
Ko woto nunto president nying ay manyal nimbaro lumenu ke banko kan wotembola
that he is not fit to be the president of the state.
Woto ate mumboleti me yalonko nyimanyang purate nyimbanko marakoteke.
In essence, you are telling us that it is your responsibility as soldiers to overthrow what you consider to be a bad government.
Amunta ela jero to kanyina fonyenko woto atelu menu musojaro ti banko kan nyimuala lon kunto duno leti puru man sakunda membe okuru yala aliyo bondi banko kan.
If our duties is in line with what the Constitution has prescribed.
Nin na do kolu anin sartol tata nyola ko banko la sambaran sarto ye men volem constitution oti
with regards to the protection and preservation of the sovereignty of the Gambia and the territorial, land space of the Gambia.
Wolem nyinti meya lon ko wolem banko la kanto nin tanko anim banko tundo be la kanto na la tankada.
And the president has shown to uphold
and president natanyi yitandiko
those constitutional values.
Wo constitutional la sarta kumalu.
Then the Gambia Armed Forces should step in and ensure that that president doesn't serve as the president of the country.
Camara was also the head of the military police and knows that he was responsible for disciplinary administration in the armed forces. He told the commission that he accepted that he failed to keep his duties and maintain discipline as head of military police. Instead, he was an accomplice in the attempted coup. In 2006, Camara was arrested along with others, disarmed at Yundum Barracks.
Malik Jata and Baji.
Malik Jata and Baji
were the people who hit my head against them.
They
are also part of the junglers. And then it was the jungler groups that beat me at the back of the
The investigation panel over the 2006 abortive coup was made up of personnel of the National Intelligence Agency, police officers, and the then junglers, a death squad that carried out off-book operations under President Jammeh. Camara and others arrested were held incommunicado and denied medical attention, visitors from family members and their lawyers. Reporting for iAfrican News, I am Aissatou Tambandur.
As more witnesses continue to appear to give their testimonies. Now in U.S., President Donald Trump's refusal to accept defeat in the November 3rd U.S. election is delaying the transitional handing over of power of office to President-elect Joe Biden. With COVID-19 ravaging the country, Biden fears that many people may die of coronavirus if there is no proper coordination to tackle the pandemic, as Trump refuses to authorize the transition. Let's hear more in this report.
Biden and Harris are not yet recognized as winners by the General Service Administration. Hence, they do not have access to government briefings that incoming administrators normally are provided with. On Monday, Biden urged Trump to allow officials to work with the incoming administration on developing a coordinated response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump's refusal to do so puts more American lives at risk of coronavirus. The president-elect said while speaking on the economy and its recovery in light of the pandemic in Wilmington, Delaware.
More people may die if we don't coordinate. They say they have this warp speed program that not only dealt with getting vaccines, but also how to distribute this. If we have to wait until January 20th to start that planning, it puts us behind over a month and a half. And so it's important that it be done, that there be coordination now or as rapidly as we can get that done. So we're ready on day one, everything from staffing to ultimately naming cabinet members to moving along on coordinating with business and labor the COVID attack, how we're going to attack COVID. And so it would make it a lot easier if the president were to participate.
With more than 11 million confirmed cases, the U.S. has the highest number of coronavirus infections in the world, and Biden warns that many may die while Trump is busy playing golf.
And the idea the president is still playing golf and not doing anything about it is beyond my comprehension. You'd at least think he'd want to go off on a positive note. But what is he doing?
As scientists race to produce a safe and effective coronavirus vaccine by next year, both Pfizer and biotech and Moderna have announced successful trials of their COVID-19 vaccines in the past 2 weeks. Biden says he wouldn't hesitate to save Americans from the deadly virus if Trump chooses not to do so.
I wouldn't hesitate to get the vaccine if, in fact, Dr. Fauci and these two organizations, whether it's Moderna or Pfizer, who have been extremely responsible, conclude that it is safe and able to be done. Look, the only reason people question the vaccine now is because of Donald Trump. The idea that the president's now existing, remaining advisor on COVID is saying that they should resist. What the hell's the matter with these guys? What is the matter with them? Resist. You know, every major individual of any consequence in the health field is saying we can save 100,000 lives just between now and January 21st by wearing these masks. It's going to take a while for the vaccine to be able to be available, distributed, and get to people. We're talking about 350 to 400,000 people dying? I mean, what are they doing?
Trump reportedly considered defeat on Sunday after he tweeted that Biden won because the election was rigged. But he later dismissed the report, saying, "I concede nothing," in another tweet. For iAfrica TV, Sohna Tunkara.
And from that report, heading to Sudan, rebel leaders returned to Sudanese capital of Khartoum on Sunday, signifying a major step towards implementing a peace agreement between the Sudan transitional government, with a peace deal widely expected to end the country's decade-long civil war. Jubilant crowds packed a central square in Khartoum, despite government warning for people to take care amid the coronavirus pandemic. Mariama Cham has more.
Hundreds of thousands died in decades of conflict, including in Sudan's war-ravaged western region of Darfur. June 30th, 1989 is a date that will always be ingrained in Sudanese history. For 6 years leading up to this day, a civil war between the predominantly Muslim North and Christian and traditional South had put the southern provinces of Sudan in a state of emergency. When the government attempted to impose new Islamic laws on the entirety of Sudan, southern troops rebelled, launching attacks along the north and south borders and dragging the region, including key crossfire areas such as the Blue Nile and Nuba Mountains, back into a bloody war. conflict in South Kordofan and Blue Nile erupted in 2011 following unresolved issues from bitter fighting in Sudan's 1983 to 2005 civil war. Today, the government of Sudan and the rebels decided to bury the hatchet and to work together to bring peace and end decades of conflicts. Meanwhile, Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, vice chairman of the Sovereign Council and head of the Sudanese government's delegation for peace negotiations, welcomed the rebel leaders. Dagalo said that they are willing to work together to end decades of conflict in Sudan.
We are willing to work hard to overcome all difficulties, maintain the comprehensive and long-lasting peace and stability of Sudan, and work together with all partners in the transition period for the future of Sudan.
On October 3, 2020, the Sudanese government signed a comprehensive peace deal with opposition groups in the South Sudanese capital city of Juba to end decades of conflict in Darfur, Blue Nile, and South Kordofan regions. The peace deal covers a number of tricky issues from land ownership, reparations and compensation to wealth and power sharing and the return of refugees and internally displaced people. The Sudan conflict lasted for 22 years and is one of the longest civil wars on record. The war resulted in the independence of South Sudan 6 years after the war ended. Roughly 2 million people died as a result of the war, famine and disease caused by the conflict. The United Nations estimated that at least 300,000 people were killed and 2.5 million were displaced in the Darfur conflict, which broke out in 2003. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
Rebel leaders in Sudan returned to Khartoum to sign a peace deal with the government. Now, President Adama Barrow over the weekend laid the foundation stone for the construction of a new car park in Basse, Gambia's second capital. The cosmopolitan city in Upper River region, 370 kilometers from the main capital, Banjul, is experiencing a dense growth in people and traffic. Mariama Cham again.
Basse, a cosmopolitan city with an estimated population of 20,000, is known for its bustling markets that serve as a transit point for merchandise headed for Senegal, Mali, and Guinea. In recent years, the main car park in Basse is reported to have significantly contributed to the heavy traffic congestion in the city. This prompted the relocation of the car park away from the market and the community. On Sunday, the Gambian leader Adama Barrow laid the foundation stone for the construction of a new car park, but said its location was unfavorable.
And money is a problem. If we are having money, it would have been very, very good if we can have a location within the community, whereby it will be a walking distance. You finish what you are doing in the market, you walk and enter a vehicle. It would have been more easier. But now here, if you want to look for a vehicle, that means you have to pay fares to come here, you know, to board a vehicle and travel. Okay, if a vehicle comes here, mostly they will not have passengers to go back to town. You have to go back to town. And they have to increase the price then to cater for all that. That's where I'm looking at it from that point. So it's a very good initiative. We support the idea, you know, because obviously the settlement is expanding. As it is expanding, I think we should also expand. You know, we should be creative to accommodate everybody. But I know for the first years you will have challenges.
The new car park, which is meant to eradicate traffic congestion, is to be built through a public-private partnership between the Basse Area Council and businessman Amidou Dia of Dia Oil Company. Basse is a hub for sub-regional integration, and the car park is expected to boost economic growth in the Upper River region, Senegal, Guinea, Mali, and Mauritania. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
The Gambian leader over the weekend laid the foundation stone for the construction of the new car park in Basse. Now, from that, with concerns raised by trade manufacturers over the country's stance on the Africa Free Trade Area, the Nigerian government has been holding several sessions with key stakeholders to address their concerns. And according to officials, after several consultations, Nigeria finally ratifies the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will come into force in January 2021.
Many had always believed it was only a question of when and not if Nigeria was going to ratify the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The government had been holding series of sessions with local manufacturers and other key stakeholders to address their concerns over the Continental Trade Initiative. The ratification therefore follows the conclusion of all the consultations the government had been making.
It was ratified, and as such, we beat deadline of the 5th of December. So effectively, we hope that by 1st of January 2021, the agreement will come into force.
Nigerian domestic manufacturers had initially expressed concerns over the trade deal, especially on the rules of origin, fearing it might lead to massive dumping and kill local industries. But they've now come around over the issue, even though reservations still remain.
It's a step in the right direction because we have been calling for the establishment of the AFTA, but the fact still remains whether Nigeria is ready to compete with the rest of Africa. And that can only be determined by the level of our competitiveness.
Nigeria may be the dominant market on the African continent, but its manufacturing sector is still struggling, a situation that has been exacerbated by the lack of adequate infrastructure. Whether local manufacturers will be able to hold and expand their market share in the face of the competition the deal would certainly throw up remains to be seen.
To me, we are not ready, but we cannot pull the rest of Africa down because of our readiness. Africa has to move forward.
Don't forget that we export services as well, because it's not just trading goods, but there's also trading services. Nigeria is in a stronger position than most African countries on banking. We dominate in banking across Africa, and that's banking services. We have educational services. We have ICT services. The biggest ICT take-up is in Nigeria, 180 million mobile phones. Then we have Nollywood, which is used everywhere in the whole continent. We have health services, so we have a lot that we can offer.
Despite concerns, quite a number of small businesses in the West African nation are hoping the after-trade deal will provide them the needed opportunity of a wider market to trade and expand their businesses. And they're waiting to cash in.
The National Action Committee has been set up to be able to take in what the probable impact is going to be on the private sector and to walk through policy, strategy, and implementation action to ensure that Nigerians get the most out of this free trade agreement.
Around 30 countries have so far ratified the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. The implementation of the agreement is scheduled to begin January 1st next year. The deal could potentially connect 1.3 billion people and create a 3.2 trillion economic bloc, significantly driving up trade on a continent that has for long failed to leverage its potentials.
More to come on the world today after this short commercial break. Stay tuned. Back and now to the rest of our stories. Officials in Egypt said they have made a great discovery of at least 100 ancient coffins and sculptures that backdate to more than 2,500 years ago. Found in Saqqara, south of the capital, Cairo, some of the coffins have mummies inside. Officials in the North African nation said this is the biggest discovery of the year. More in this report.
It's been described by Egyptian officials as the biggest discovery of the year. What makes this excavation unique is not just the number of antiquities unearthed, but the good state in which they are in.
There are more than 100 closed coffins, intact and well preserved with clear paintings, which is something rare. They are from the late period and the Ptolemaic kingdom. The 40 statues are used in funerals as offerings. Most of them are golden statues, but there are 2 beautiful wooden statues as well.
The discovered monuments, which date back 2,500 years, have helped reveal the nature of their owners.
I can see that the level or the standard or the people who are buried here, they are a little bit rich than the other ones, yes. Because those guys, because they were rich, they were elite, high-ranked people, so that's why they could buy coffins gilded. They could afford it. So we have another shaft full of coffins, well gilded, well painted, well decorated.
Egyptian excavators say there's still a missing piece to finish the puzzle of these coffins and statues.
We did not find the workshop of the wooden coffins till now, but we're gonna find it soon. So we used to have a workshop for wooden coffins. So the guys in ancient time, they stopped there and start looking at this coffin and said, I like to have this one. How much is this one? So they used to buy it and then offer it for their own mummies, their own bodies, their own aunts, whatever.
The raft of recent discoveries have mostly been in the vast necropolis area on the outskirts of Giza.
In Saqqara, kings were buried from the most ancient period, the beginning of dynasties. There are 13 pyramids in Saqqara. Citizens, high-ranked employees and priests were also buried here from the very beginning of the dynasties throughout all the ancient Egyptian history, the pharaonic civilization, Greek, Roman and Christian as well. It is the only area to include all periods of history from the start. What we found lately accounts for only 1% of what is below us. That's why we keep coming back to Saqqara.
It's expected there will be more discoveries at this historic location.
Officials discover 100 Asian coffins and sculptures with mummies aged 2,500 years. Now, the COVID-19 has spread rapidly across the world and has forced many countries to take drastic measures to cope its spread. With some parts of the world experiencing a second wave of new coronavirus infections, in Kenya, the government has made the wearing of face masks mandatory in public places. Anyone found abusing this rule will be charged by the police. More in this report.
It's compulsory for Kenyans to wear a face mask while in public. Non-compliance could attract a hefty fine of $200. Amid rising cases of COVID-19, police have instructions to arrest and instantly charge.
The idea is that people who have coronavirus are less likely to emit droplets and infect others while wearing a face mask.
But many don't wear a face mask or covering when they leave the house. Others do not wear it correctly, even when in close contact with others.
Many people are wearing masks because they don't want to get arrested because of the current rules and not because there is corona.
Kamau says there is conflicting messaging by those in authority.
For example, politicians have been holding rallies with people without masks, and so it seems like it's not a serious thing. Let them first show us that they are serious.
Lazima kwanza wao watuonyeshe wako serious na hii kitu. According to experts, people who oppose health guidelines such as wearing of face masks usually have a handful of reasons.
African countries and governments have failed to provide at least masks, even if it's reusable masks for their people, because the same people are struggling to make a living every single day, and so the choice becomes between buying a mask and buying food.
Dr. Machonda says there is a lack of continued sensitization at the community level.
Earlier on in the pandemic, there was a lot of fear and panic, and that is what brought about the behavior change you saw, where people are washing their hands, sanitizing, putting on masks. But the fear is now gone, and largely because we haven't seen very severe infections in the African continent, unlike in Europe and the American continent.
Kenya is facing a second surge in COVID-19 cases. Experts warn that calls to continue wearing a mask cannot be ignored during this pandemic period.
Well, viewers, that was all on the world today with me, Sohna Tunkara. You can continue watching more of our interesting programs on www.iafrica.tv. Until then, good evening.